just kind of going crazy because I remember those days. And so even the dads that are, able to be home and educate their children. And so we just saw that there was a need, and there's so many tips and tricks, and we've gone through this process prior to the pandemic. So our lives are almost running very normal to what they were before, except we're not getting out to, the kids' activities and sports and things like that. But we wanted to help you and just kind of bring some light and give you some of the wisdom, especially from these two masters, because I learned from both of them. And they're so humble. They're not going to say it, but we wanted to bring that light to you. And so before we get started, grab your coffee, grab your caffeine, grab your soda. We're not judging you. If you got a glass of wine, see, they got that. I think that's probably water down there. We've got coffee in the other. I've got my Crystal Light for my caffeine. If you got wine, you got a shot of vodka, you can take it on here. We can't see you, but we're celebrating with you that we are just kicking off this morning and blessed to be here. But before we do get started, this is a very serious situation. This is something that none of us have ever gone through. And we personally know people that are fighting the virus. We know people who have loved ones that have passed from this virus. So guys, this is a very, very serious thing. And the quicker we can get a hold of this and we can all stay home, as if I were president, everybody stay home for 30 days and we're done. And we can all get back to life. And, but we're also going into a life that's got a different perspective moving forward. But our hearts go out to you. Our thoughts are with you. Our prayers are with you. And everybody be safe. Wash your hands. Stay inside, and sanitize, sanitize, sanitize. My hands are so dry. I'm having to use Aquaphor just to get them lubricated so that they're not cracking. So we will go ahead and get this kicked off. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Selena Adelano. I got married at the age of 17. I've got 4 kiddos. My oldest is 24. My youngest just turned 10. And I've got a 14-year-old, 10 and 14-year-old boys. I've got 23 and 24-year-old daughters. And I worked right out of high school, got married young. And when I moved to Texas 12 and a half years ago, homeschooling is a big thing in Texas. And I'm just like, dang, those moms are saints. I could never, ever, ever do that. And maybe some of you have that same perspective that I did. And I love my kids. I wasn't, the mom was like, when is the summer over so they can go to school? I enjoyed my time with my kids. But I was also juggling business in a very intense, high demand business. And I could never see myself homeschooling my kids because I'm very patient. But when you don't understand 1 + 1 = 2, I don't know how to help you. And I just had I had the wrong perspective. I can only speak about myself. I had the wrong perspective and I had the wrong approach. And I really needed some sisters like this, some family that could give me that wisdom of how to be successful. So regardless of what it is that you're juggling, this is something that we can all do. And so anyway, I got kind of thrown into homeschool. I never thought I would be able to do it, but I had a situation with my son, and he had a severe allergic reaction while we were traveling abroad. And he was about to start kindergarten 2 weeks before. This is my youngest, and he had a severe allergic reaction to peanuts. Literally, if you do not get to him within minutes, he will die. And so on this trip, I had a lot of my mom friends and their kids, and we started talking about how they treat peanut allergies, and those kids are at a different table and all of this. And this was 4 years ago. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, this is an opportunity for him to stand out and be bullied and things like that. And so once I started learning these things, I'm like, I don't know how the heck these moms homeschool, but I got to figure this thing out, because the last thing that I wanted to do, if anybody knows me, the last thing and the biggest fear of mine is living a life of regret. And so I didn't want to send him off to school, kiss my baby, have a good day, honey. He's going to be definitely educated, but not know if he's going to come home, because sometimes he doesn't communicate when his throat is swelling up, when his tongue is swelling. He says, I got a sore throat or my throat hurts. If people don't know he's got a peanut allergy, he could literally die. In fact, that's what happened at that resort. And so I had to figure this thing out, and I was thrown into it. And so these other moms, they too they didn't grow up and say, hey, I want to be a stay-at-home mom and homeschooling my kids, and we're going to have the whole little house on the prairie, beautiful life, and we're going to plant our own vegetables and raise our own cattle and meats and, you know, chickens for the eggs and all that. And so I just thought it would be so perfect, because we've all come into this kind of with the same approach, that this wasn't something we envisioned, but it is something that we have fallen in love with. And so what I want to do is I want to have each of them share their story. And so Teresa, if you will, I'd love for you to just kind of share with the audience who you are, and you know, your family. I know it continues growing. I think it's going to grow some more, guys, especially during this pandemic. But if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to have you share your story.
Yes, thank you, Selena. Hi, everyone. I'm very honored to be here, very humbled to be here. My name is Teresa Tran. My husband and I, we live in Frisco, actually McKinney, Texas. We have been married for almost 14 years. We have 5 kids. I'm still in awe, I'm in disbelief that I don't believe I have 5 kids. The oldest is 12. I have 2 boys, almost 12 and 10, and I have 3 girls, 4, 2, and 7.5 months. Yeah, my husband, he's a dentist, and I stay at home. I homeschool. I've been homeschooling. This is going on our 6th year, and I also teach a fitness class with Momletta, baby boot camp classes. Oh, and so how did I get into homeschooling?
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, 7.5 years ago, Tyson and I, we partnered with a technology lifestyle company in the travel space. And through that company, we met a few families, Pam and her family included, that homeschooled. And my mom's a teacher. She taught for 30 years. And I see that life, and I have so much respect for them, because being a teacher requires a lot of patience. And I did not consider myself having a lot of patience. And so I was like, no, I cannot teach, you know. But when I met these families and I saw their kids, I was in awe, because their kids were so smart, so well-spoken, well-behaved, and most importantly, they knew who they belonged to, which was the Lord. And I wanted my kids to be like that. And so if I want my kids to be like that, then I want to do what they're doing. So I felt the Lord call me one summer that, okay, you need to homeschool your kids. And at that time, the oldest was entering 1st grade. And after a month of discernment and praying, I felt, okay, this is the right call. And I mean, this is the right thing to do. So I jumped on board with the help of some of the moms that I met, including Pam, and got guidance from them. And then a year in, I found Classical Conversations, which has been a huge blessing for us. We meet at the campus once a week. They have their group of friends. I have my support group every week that we meet together. And I'm going on my 6th year now, and it's crazy. But it's wonderful, and it's really grown me as a mom and as a person, and grown closer to my kids, and really learn how they learn, and just, yeah, it's great, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It's not easy, it's hard, but it's also wonderful too.
Teresa, you know, as you shared that story, I remember when you were getting started. And I was not the Pam Ruiz. My kids were still in public school, and I'm like, do you realize what you're getting yourself into? I wasn't on the homeschool bandwagon yet. And I'm like, yeah, those kids are great. And yes, we want that. But it's a lot of work. I was the person trying to talk her out of it, you know, temporarily. And thank God she did it, because now she's become such a great inspiration to me. So thank you so much, Teresa. Pam, I would love to have you share your story. Guys, if you're listening, I have 4 kids. Teresa has 5, and Pam, we'd love to have you share your story.
Okay, well, I win with 6 kids, but it's funny because I looked at the pictures when you're announcing, this, and now my family, they're all big. I have all these big kids, and I remember when my family picture looked like Teresa's family picture with all these, babies and toddlers and young ones, and it's kind of amazing. Okay, so Pam Ruiz, my husband is Cesar. We've been married 29 years. We live in Saxby, Texas. And I didn't want to homeschool. My mom is also a teacher. Teresa, my grandmother was a teacher. My husband and I lived in Mexico for the first 8 years of our marriage, and I was a teacher there. I loved the classroom. So when I heard about homeschooling, I just thought it sounded so boring, like who wants to do that, and I also thought that I would be too hard on my kids. Like, I don't know. I thought, it's one thing to have patience for a group of kids in a classroom when I was a teacher, but I was pretty sure that, I don't know, I had teachers that I loved, and I just thought, man, my kids are not going to like me. I'm not going to be nice enough, or that fun teacher, because I don't think of myself as a super, my personality, I'm not the extrovert fun, always thinking about how to make everything fun. I don't know. I just didn't think you had to do it. I knew my husband kept meeting people that homeschooled. He's like, look at these families, look at the relationships that the parents have with the kids, and the kids with the siblings with each other. At the time we had 2, and our daughter was in kindergarten, and it was like the last year that the Plano schools had half-day kindergarten. And it was already driving my husband crazy, because some little boy wanted to sit next to her and hold her hand. And he's like, ah. Because I didn't say, I have 1 daughter and 5 sons. So she's the oldest. And we started homeschooling that when she was in 1st grade. And she's going to turn 26 next month. So I've been doing this for 20 years, which you'd think I'd feel like an expert, but I got to say that every child is different. Every season we go through seasons in our life. Everything's always changing. So I can say I have 20 years of experience, but every year's a new year, the grade level, your kids' temperaments, personalities, hormones, there's all these changes all the time. So in a lot of ways, we all feel like we're always just getting started. And anyways, so when I, Stace kept saying, I really think we should think about homeschooling, and I kept saying, I really don't think it's necessary. I don't want to do that. And finally, I said I would pray about it. And it was when I prayed about it, I heard about a panel. These women with 20 years of experience, like supposedly I have now, they were going to answer questions at a meeting. And I went, and I think it was like a paradigm shift. I know it was, because I heard what I needed to hear. They were all talking about a conference that they had attended, and it was by a lady named Sally Clarkson, and she did a conference, or I don't know if she still does, but she has a book called Educating the Wholehearted Child. And they said that instead of trying to make their home like a classroom, look like a school, they had this paradigm shift where they were seeing that homeschooling, you didn't have to try to have, a classroom in your home. You were just creating an atmosphere of learning and a love for learning in your home. And it was all centered around literature, children's literature. I love children's books. And I just got excited for the first time. And I was like, yeah, we're going to do this. And so I started when Natalia was in 1st grade, and CJ, her the oldest of my sons, was just 4, I guess, or 5. They're 2 years apart. 4. So he was still preschool. And then I was Well, I know, and a baby. I had a baby too, Teresa. Yeah, Nico was born. So I had a newborn. And I just, I didn't have to jump into it with 6 kids. So I know there's people, maybe they don't have 6, but all of a sudden they have 3 at home or 4. And that would be harder. I can't imagine. I started with 1 and 1 preschooler, and it grew from there. And now I can say that, I have 3 that have graduated. My daughter is married, and my oldest son is married. And they both went on to college, got their degrees. My son's finishing his master's degree. And, they all look, successful, but they're all different. And I don't even think it's because I did everything right and I didn't teach them everything they knew. But I think we can create an atmosphere in our homes. And that's what I want to encourage people, that it's not even so much that they're going to know everything. They're not going to know everything. But if you can help them love to learn and create relationships with them, that's what's going to matter,
Absolutely.
I don't know. That was a long introduction.
No, that's so good. And you touched on something that I know we've talked about is, being thrown into the mix. You may just be stressed out and like you don't know which way is up. You're not even able to keep your head above water as you're juggling everything that's happening. And we haven't even mentioned, there are families that have been laid off. And so where's the next meal coming from? And so, we're gonna help on the schooling and the education part. And you're gonna hear that it's not a lot about actual education, as you heard from Pam. At the end of the day, our kids, they want to be loved. They want to know that they matter. And we go into this like, coming from all of us going through school, the public school, or I went through private school system. It's like, you've got this curriculum, you've got to finish it. And it's like, you're like the nuns people hear about in the Catholic schools where they're like, they're like, they had that one nun they didn't like. I heard about that recently and it just kind of stood out. You're their teacher, but first you're their mom. And if you're a dad and you're doing this, you're their father. And so just think about the example that you want to set and that atmosphere that you want to set for them. And, homeschool looks very different. Having kids home at school on their computers, doing this, curriculum from their public schools, it's different than what it is in the school, in that they may still be in pajamas for some of you that are adjusting into this. They may be laid across the living room floor. You may have someone on the dining room table. They may be at a desk. I thought that it had to be the school system. In my home, I need a space. They need their desk. They need everything. And it's really about adjusting it to every child so that I think it's going to be the most comfortable atmosphere, which is going to allow them to just have that stress be off of them. And they can actually be putting themselves into that place of wanting to learn and experience that and then get excited with it as well. So for you moms, is homeschooling your children? I know, we kind of touched on that, Teresa. Does it look exactly the same for all of your kids? Do they get up at the same time, do the same curriculum, excel in the same curriculum? Was it like, military style or was there flexibility? How did you guys handle that, Teresa?
Yeah, I'm the oldest of 4 and I like to be organized and I like things done like this. But homeschooling has taught me flexibility and that every child is different. And so like today, my girls, they're 4 and 2, they woke up early, of course, because they're younger. And then my almost 12-year-old woke up a little later, and my 10-year-old woke up super late. So, each child is different. And so I have to teach them according to how they learn, right? So Matthew is more of a visual. He's a thinker. He takes his time. He likes to be perfect. And that's something we're working on, that you got to learn. You got to make mistakes to learn. he takes a lot more patience from me. But it's okay. And with Maiden, he's very fast. He gets things done and he's done. I'm like, are you sure? Let me check everything, but it's done. So he's a matter of fact kind of kid. And so our day is different every day. And although I wish that, I had a list in my head, okay, let's do this. And I wish it was perfect every day, but in reality, it's not. And especially with a 4 and a 2-year-old who's still learning obedience, who's still learning how to share, who communicates through yelling and screaming a lot of times. So my day is like, in the morning they wake up, they eat breakfast. And if we happen to be awake at the time we're eating breakfast at the same time, then we'll be sitting at the table eating breakfast and reading the Lord's word, God's word, and sharing it. And that just fills my heart when we are able to do that. And then I'll be doing school with Matthew, perhaps like math, while Maiden will play with the sisters, or Maiden will be reading while the sisters, if they are good, they'll play together, right? But a lot of times when I'm in the zone doing math with Matthew, the sisters are fighting over a toy. I have to stop and I have to tend to them and teach them, obedience and what does God teach us is to love and to share and just be a mom, and then it's time to feed baby. So I'm learning and growing as a person and stretching every day to let go of my expectations of, okay, my day is not as it's planned, and just go with the flow. And at the end of the day, when I look back, if I got this main thing because every day, I have that list, right? But I've learned that I have to write down or think, okay, what is the one major thing I want to get done with Matthew today? What's the one thing I have to get done with Maiden today? If I can get those things done, then it's a win. And if everybody's happy and healthy and loved and there's food on the table, it's a win. So I've had to learn to let go of my expectations of a perfect day. And just because this is where my life is, I have a baby and I have 2 little ones, that I set my priority for each child. And if that's done, then I have to be happy with that. And yeah.
So I love it. I mean, the key thing I'm hearing is that you're removing the expectation, like you said, on yourself. Because it's so easy to look at the outside world and, well, this mom does this, and they're like, just the model parent, or even dads excel as well. Dads can do this. And so it can be very intimidating. And so, as we say a lot in our lives, comparison is a thief. So number one is removing that comparison, and then figuring out what is the most important thing for you, your children, your household, so that it does remain happy. It doesn't become a high stress environment. These kids have so much stress and so much put on them from the outside world that we want to be their safe place. And we also want to have that relationship where they can come and they know they can communicate with us. Because we're not jumping down our throat. Guys, I'm not the saint mom. I've had my season. I remember chasing my stubborn daughter, around the house years ago. And, we all go through our crazy phase every now and then. But it's now learning these tips that a lot of homeschool families have learned. And the other thing, what I'm hearing Teresa, is the flexibility. It's like, you know what, this is what we're going to do, but sometimes it's not going to go according to plan. And then that in itself is a life lesson. I know we're all graduated. There's so many things and so many tools that we needed as adults. How to be financially smart, how to balance a checkbook, how to change tires, how to have the best character traits. And so that's one of those traits that you're teaching them, how to be flexible. Not everything is going to go your way. And I have a child that sometimes when it doesn't go their way, they just and they're out of here. They storm out and they get bothered and upset. And what I tell them is, when you have a boss and you have a job, you don't get to act that way. You will never have a job, because as soon as you get it, you're going to get fired. And so it's so cool that we get to be present to witness it, and then see that this is an opportunity to educate them. So maybe it's not math, maybe it's not, history and science and those things, but this is one of those life lessons that they're going to take with them for the rest of their life. I mean, we were just talking about this last night, where there's so many things I learned in school, and I was, that A, B student. Like, I wanted to do my best. I would research hours on end once the internet came into existence. And before that, it was the encyclopedias and the newspaper and books. But I would do that because I wanted to excel. I wanted to do my best. But not every child wants to do that. And then another thing that I learned is that as much as we don't want to hear this, and we don't even want our kids to be in this, so to speak, because of the conditioning of our mind, is that normally you're like, you need to be an A student. You need to be an A student because you're going to excel through life. When in fact, and they go on to college and things like that, but then through life, what we've learned is that the people who had their backs against the wall and they were the C and the D students, they're actually the ones starting up the businesses and hiring your A student to work from them. So just having that thought in my mind, that they don't need to be an A student across the board. And just because they're not an A student across the board doesn't mean that they're failing. If you're growing them in other places and excelling them in their strengths and things like that. So I love that. I love what you're saying, Teresa. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, you touched on that, I think the most rewarding and important thing of homeschooling is tending to their hearts. And Pam is going to talk more about that because she and her husband has that ministry, but I've learned a lot from them as well. Is that more important than the academics? It's teaching them the ways of the Lord and teaching them, showing them God's love through your love for them, and cultivating that love and heart for the Lord, because, we need to, that's our belief. And we want to teach our children to be obedient to us so that when they grow, they learn how to listen and be obedient to the Lord, to do his will. And so that's something that I have to remind myself every single day, because my personality is, we got to get things done. But at the same time, I have to remember, okay, if my child is crying because someone took her toy away, I have to just stop what I'm doing with Matthew, although we're in a groove and I want to get this done. Okay, the Lord is calling me to tend to my two girls, to teach them how to share. Or Matthew and Megan are learning how to be good brothers and how to take care of their siblings. And a lot of times they don't get along. And so they have to learn how to, and I'm learning too, how to teach them how to, get along, argue constructively, or, things like that. And they're learning responsibility at home, helping out with emptying the dishwasher, taking out all the chores, right? Yeah. So that's one of the things that I love about homeschooling, is because I can tend to them. They're home with me all day, every day. So I get to teach them not just the academics part, but the heart, matters of the heart and responsibility and all those things that when they grow up and out of the house, hopefully, I've done my part, and the rest, they will, the Lord will guide, and they're going to be responsible human beings and know how to give back to society and the Lord.
Yeah.
And you're teaching them how to earn brownie points with their wives. Hello, husbands, sons. Just because you think the kitchen is for and the home is for the woman and the wife, and that's what she does, and that's what was taught way back when. Let me tell you, gentlemen, get your boys knowing how to do some housework. My boys, they know how to vacuum this house better than I can. I had to learn from them the setting that they put on my vacuum. So it'll definitely get them some brownie points, because at the end of the day, for all of us, we're raising, whether it's our daughters or our sons, we're raising somebody's wife and someone's husband. And that is one of those things that, we always got to think about. So, Pam, I'd love for you to share.
Yeah, I just think that's so true. We're raising adults, and sometimes I think the moms, maybe some of you that feel like you're overwhelmed right now, is because you're trying to do it all. And I don't do it all. I can't do it all. I didn't have 6 kids, and, I couldn't be the one keeping the house clean, doing all the laundry, doing all the meals, doing all the cleanup by myself, and homeschooling my kids. No, we create an identity for your family. We're the Ruiz family, and this is how we do things. And we do it to glorify God. We do it because we love each other and we love the Lord. And anything that any job that a child can do, then you shouldn't be doing it, Mom. They can learn, and it takes more time at first. But I would say, like, right now, if it's just super frustrating trying to do school and take some time out and work on child training right now. This is an opportunity. Like, I know some people like to give kids jobs that they do and then they switch every week. I don't. I get one that's really good at cleaning the bathroom and they clean that bathroom for years, or a year. I'm not very good at switching it up because it takes a while to get them to be good at it, or I have my 20-year-old son cracks us up because he has been the one to load the dishwasher. If anybody else does it and then he comes, he's going to rearrange it anyways, so it's just been his job for a long time. And so if he's home, he's the one that does it. Like you said, Selena, my boys are the ones that vacuum. I have the one that vacuums upstairs and one that vacuums downstairs, one that does the bathroom upstairs, another that does the guest bathroom. It's all divided up. And, it can be the laundry, it can be meals. And a lot of times with the younger ones, there's times, like Teresa, we were talking about this last night, there's times where you go, okay, you go watch this video, you get to do this because I need to go in the kitchen, I need to be alone for a minute. But there's so many times during the day that what your young ones want, they want relationship with you. They really do. And it may take longer, but they want to sit there. At the beginning, it might be handing you the egg and you crack it. Later, they're the ones cracking the eggs. They want to wash the dishes and they think it's fun. They're playing in water and you're like, it's making a mess. It's a bigger mess. But you know what? They're learning. So, I look at the videos now where my son that's 20, he was the 6-year-old and then they were stair steps down from there. And they were all doing their little jobs. And sometimes it didn't feel like a lot of help. But now I look at them and they're so capable. They do know how to do things. Not that they're always going to want to do it when they get older, but, you do train them. So I would take some time, Mom, and just look, what is causing frustration at home right now? Like, what are the attitudes? You can't take everything all at once, but like Teresa said, what is one thing we could work on today? Is it, we talk about just, do they respond to your voice? When you ask them to do something, do they do it? We would play a game and when they were little, you'd say, okay, this is the game. I'm going to say your name. And when I call your name, you're going to say, yes, Mommy. And you're going to come running and then look me in the eye and say, yes, Mommy. Okay, so go hide over there in the room behind the chair. Now, can you hear it? Mommy's going to say your name, but not really loud. Can you hear me if I just say, Cesar, yes, Mommy, and then come running, and okay, look me in the eye, say, yes, Mommy, and then I'm going to tell you something. Okay, I want you to go put this shoe over in the mud room. look at me in the eye and say, yes, mommy, and then run into, make it a game. But it's a training session. If you take 10 minutes of your day and say, I'm going to train on this, like I want the shoes to be left in the mudroom. Okay, then, everybody take off your shoes. Okay, now, or go outside, put shoes on, come in. Okay, what are you going to do when you get inside? What are you going to do with your shoes? Okay, let's take them, go put them in the mudroom. Like, do it over and over, like train them, because we don't think about how we've trained them to be the way they are. The way that they are right now, we've trained them, and maybe it's, because we didn't train them to do anything else, but we can create habits. So if there's just, think about what's most frustrating, and sometimes it feels like everything, but find something and think, how can I work on this? And I think when they're little, that is homeschooling. That is super important, because if they can just listen to your voice and you don't feel like you have to scream and get frustrated to get their attention, things like that, that'll make a difference in your day.
Yeah, that's so true. I was that screaming mom, and for a season with my girls, and I would just get so frustrated, and I'm frustrated, and the whole day is down and out the crapper. I mean, it really is. Let's just be real. And I love another thing that you pointed out, and that was something that I worked with my son, because one thing that we all notice with homeschool kids is like they can carry on a conversation with adults. They're not intimidated. And what happens is there's so many kids and they excel through school and they're super smart, but they can't have a conversation face to face, eyeball to eyeball. They look down, and so as you're doing that, Pam, and as you taught that from such a young age, that's just, they know no different. They know no different than what we teach them. So we're just teaching them those things, but that molds them into who they are, because who they are, I know from experience. One of my daughters, I won't mention any names, it's my second daughter, I only have two. Her name is Victoria, so there is her name, and I only mention it because she is victorious. And I prayed for strong daughters, and that's what I wanted, and boy did I get it, and boy did it backfire on me on those teenage years. But I just kept thinking, okay, this is going to bless and serve them when they're older, in their 20s. Okay, suck it up. But I just remember stages that I went through with her, and it was just very difficult. But because I didn't have this circle and this community of people that I could talk to, because everybody's got, the perfect life, everybody, you got social media, and on social media, everybody's got their highlight reel. You don't know behind the scenes, like things are really falling apart and they're so dysfunctional, or the mom's in the closet drinking, and things like that. So it's just all the education that we can learn. And when Victoria was younger and she used to throw these fits, she was really cute when she threw the fits. And so there was a degree of it that I allowed, but don't allow that, parents, because who they are when they're younger is who they're going to grow up to be. And that was a lesson that I learned. And so I learned that lesson. And, from the time my kids were 2, people would be like, Selena, how is your house so clean? Because each of us are responsible for picking up after ourselves. And when you're done with something, you need to put it away. And don't have all these different things going on, which includes, our homeschool and our academics. My kids will be on their computer doing their schooling, and then they've got a book that they're reading at the same time. And I'm like, no. You cannot master both of those at the same time. We need to really dive in and focus in one area. So just all these little lessons. What was the biggest obstacle, if you haven't touched on it, what was the biggest obstacle for you, Teresa, going into homeschooling?
My first year was really hard, and I can only imagine what the parents are going through right now, being thrown into homeschooling when you did not even intend to and expect that. So I think the hardest thing for me when I started homeschooling was learning my child, like learning his personality, learning how he learned things. And I found out quickly that Matthew was a perfectionist and that I'm stubborn. And I learned a lot about myself as well, as a mom and as a mom and as a teacher, but as a mom, that, he, for his spelling tests, if he did not know all the words, he would cross his arms and he would say, no, I'm not going to do it. And that just threw me into, I was so frustrated and angry. I'm like, you are going to do this. So that was really hard at first. And thank the Lord that I have a relationship with him, because I learned patience and I learned to breathe and I learned how to teach him that it's okay to make mistakes and that mistakes are so important in the process of learning. And I point out, how do you ride a bike? How do you learn how to ride a bike? Do you think that, someone jumps on the bike and learns how to ride it the first time? No, they have to fall. And many times they fall a lot. You have to fall a lot in order to learn the balance of riding a bike. And so the Lord gave me the wisdom to give him examples, of teaching him that you can't be perfect. You're not God. And that making mistakes is part of learning. And so I think the hardest part for me was to learn how he learned and realizing how I am as a person, and that I had to yield and I had to change and I had to change the way I was teaching him. So I think that's one of the things that, when you throw it into this, you kind of gotta know, okay, is my child a hands-on type of person? And if she or he is, how can I teach them their style of learning? Is my child an auditory learner, a visual learner? And then go from there, right? Yeah.
So it's really being present with your child. And that in itself is a struggle, because, when I was running my insurance business from my home and my 2 businesses, and my kids were bringing home homework at that time, my daughters were bringing home homework and they'd need help, and I would just get super frustrated. And it wasn't that I was frustrated with them. I was frustrated because I didn't have the time. And I didn't realize that until much later. And guys, we're moms. So you may see, as you saw one kid come into Pam's window, her little webcam, you may see kids come in. This is life. We are real moms who just are doing the best that we can. And so, Pam, what about you? What is one of the biggest obstacles, or some of the biggest obstacles, that you had to learn along the way?
Oh, lots. Comparison, we touched on that, but because we live in a world where everybody sees everything, the social media. I mean, we all tend to see, Pinterest. It's like the best of somebody's world is what you get to see, and you don't see behind the scenes, or you see the kids work when they did this amazing artwork or something, and you're like, we haven't done that, or you just can't compare, and that's really hard. It is hard. You can't compare your kids one to the other, and you can't compare yourself to the other moms. Nobody has your kids. Nobody has your home, your situation. And so you go to the Lord and you ask him for help. You realize really quickly you can't do it. You can't do it by yourself, that you need a relationship with the Lord. You need the Holy Spirit to lead you, to help you have that patience. You have to grow. I mean, so many moms say, I can never do what you do because my kids wouldn't listen to me, or I'm not patient. And I'm thinking, that was me, like, you grow. It's like we talk about in business, you lift your leadership lid because you realize, you just have to be growing, and you show your kids every day, what it means to say you're sorry and ask for forgiveness, because you don't do everything right. And I think, if my kids can learn to say that and go into marriage and know how to ask for forgiveness, I mean, that's amazing, because how many couples struggle with that, that just owning it, owning your part, what you did wrong. And so consider everything you're doing at home during this time just an opportunity for God to change your heart, change the way you think about things, change your character, and allow him to work in your kids' life. And then I think the other thing that was challenging for me was to go from the child stage to the adult stage, young adult, adolescence. I'm reading a book right now called Feeding the Mouth That Bites You. And I used to think, oh, that sounds so negative. But, at the age of 12, 13, kids change. They don't, and, especially I got all these boys, so they don't really want their mom telling them what to do. And so it can be challenging. I would say, like, from what I'm really realizing is they want us to affirm them, that we see them. They want to know if we see them as adults. And we're like, no, because I see every single flaw. You see the immaturity. But we need to speak life to them. We need to look for ways that they're being responsible. What can we, what areas are you holding on to that you think you own as the mom, as the authority, that they're old enough, it should be theirs, their school. When they're in middle school, they should own it. They should care more than you care. That doesn't mean that you don't set up boundaries, like, expectations, but it doesn't have to be like Selena was saying, maybe they're not the straight A student, but what their best can look like. And so you have some boundaries, but they have to want it more than you want it for them. And so I think sometimes allowing them in the teenage years, adolescent years, to try to own things and experience failure too, that's really important, because you want them to do that at home in a safe place. So, let them own. Maybe it's time that they own their room, how clean it is or not clean. And you have some boundaries. If it can't stink, and if they're going to do that, they have to do their own laundry, but it's their room. And so you're going to let them know, this is your area. And you hold back on certain things. They're still yours, but by the time they're 18, you should have already handed over those areas, those territories to them. So I think that was really hard for me to learn. I think I wanted to go from the child trading, yes, mommy, stage to they just keep doing that, right? They're just going to do everything I say. It's going to look perfect. No, they gotta become their own person. They've got to own it. They have to discover the power of the Holy Spirit in them, a relationship with God that can lead them. I can't be that for them. I can't be their compass. I can train them when they're young, and I can point them to the Word of God, but they have to own it. So whatever stage you're at, just know that it's not all on you, Mom. Pray. God will do things. He fills in the gaps. I look at my son that, his master's is in data analytics. And the one thing that we didn't do really well when he was homeschooling was math. Like, he didn't want to I would think he was doing it. And then I find out you skipped like half that book, or you're, I was like, I felt so guilty. Like, I'm a terrible teacher, terrible homeschool mom, because I didn't even know my kid wasn't even doing his work, But when he got to college and he decided what he wanted to do, he went and got tutored. He graduated with the summa cum laude, God was able to work and fill in the gaps from my homeschooling. So, you might feel like there's big gaps in these months that you have to homeschool. Maybe it's not something you're going to do forever. It's just in these few months. But just look, maybe there's something else maybe it's relationship. You're just going to work on having a good relationship with that child in these 3 months. And maybe, it's not going to really matter that they didn't check every box, in the school education box. It's way bigger than that. If they learned to just be honest with you, and you could be honest with them, and you just find ways to connect with your kids during this time. And don't worry. It never looks perfect. It doesn't look perfect in the school, in the classroom either. They have days where they don't get it all done. And a lot of the time of that, you know, homeschool, we can do it in a lot less time because we're not dealing with discipline of 20 kids. You know, we're just trying to focus on one or two at a time. And so if you can imagine what teachers go through in a classroom, and it's not all productive time. So don't beat yourself up. I think give yourself grace.
Yeah, I think that that's so so good. And I know for me myself, when I got started, I am that schedule and that perfectionist. And here's your list, and here's what you're responsible for today. And you know, you're old enough to know you can read this. And then when it didn't happen, I would get frustrated. And then in the very beginning, as soon as I made the decision on that trip while we're out of the country, okay, I'm going to homeschool. And so people are like, you know, immediately, well, what curriculum are you using? I'm like, I don't know. And that in itself was overwhelming to me. There's so many curriculums out there. And, you know, you don't have to, when you think homeschool, you think that you have to be the teacher and you have to teach them everything. And if you're not this scholar or this professor that knows everything that you've learned and you've retained it, then it's very intimidating. But there's so many tools, so many resources, so many curriculums out there. My daughters did homeschool for 1 year, and we paid for Alpha Omega Academy, and it was great for one of my daughters. But my other daughter didn't do well learning online. And she's my Victoria. She's my 4.0 student, but learning online through that curriculum, it wasn't engaging to her. She didn't enjoy it. But so then when I'm doing this with my boys, because of course my older one wanted to do it since his brother was going to be home, and instead of them both being in homeschool, I just had to figure out what was going to work for me. And I had to give myself permission that I'm not going to be the best. And I'm not going to be the trophy mom and the trophy homeschooling mom. And I'm not that teacher. I got to find what's going to work for my family. And so literally what we did just to get started, just to get going in it, but get them educated, was we went to the teacher store and we grabbed all the different subjects for their grade level. And then they knew, we put together a schedule and they knew what they had to do each day. But then there were times where, you know, my little one, you know, he's supposed to be sitting at the table doing his schoolwork, and he's like looking around and twiddling his thumbs and talking and making noise. And I'm just like, what is wrong with you, kid? Like, I don't get it. And I was so glad that I had already given myself permission to not have perfect kids that did perfect studies according to the agenda. I had already given myself permission, and because I did that, I was able to have the patience to know that, you know, he's not been diagnosed, but I'm sure he's got ADD. He's extremely intellectual. You know, by 3 years old, he was reading, and people would look at me like, oh my gosh, you're like this amazing mom. I'm like, no, he read it and learned it on Xbox. And, you know, there are just certain words. These are they were the sight words, you know, that he was learning, but they were adult sight words, you know, because they were in this video game. And so I couldn't take the credit, but I was like, oh gosh, how bad does that sound? That while I was running my insurance business, my kids played, my little preschoolers played Xbox. And it is what it is, guys. And at the end of the day, it's okay. And then when he was having those moments of not being able to focus, I thought I didn't have the patience to sit down and educate my child. But it wasn't that. It was that I didn't give myself permission to have the time to educate them. And like they said earlier, it just takes a good like 10 minutes. It doesn't take over your day. It's just a segment of time, and remove all the distractions so that you can focus in on that child and help them in that place where they need help. And I think that that's so important. So learning the obstacles, knowing what your obstacles are, identifying them, and then learning how to overcome them is going to help you succeed as a parent, to just relieve some of that stress. uh, Before we move on, do you guys have any other things to add to that? It's okay.
I think, for this time being, while you're homeschooling at home, being thrown into that, what I would say is kind of have the schedule for the day, right? And have the blocks of time to do the school, but also have the blocks of time to play. Let them play, because they learn through playing. And then have blocks of time to read with them, um and just tend to matters of the heart. I really love what Pam said, is perhaps during this time God is calling you to further deepen your relationship with your children. And so if it's okay if you don't get everything done, excuse me, but give the Lord all your worries, because you can't do this by yourself. You can't do this all on your own. And if you feel like you're drowning, or you feel just like you can't do this, reach out to me or Pam or Selena, and just talk to us. Reach out to a mom and talk, because just being able to have someone to talk to listen to, really helps a lot. So yeah, that's what I'd like to share. Yeah.
I love it. Pam, anything else before we move on?
No, I agree. You need friends, and you need people that you can be vulnerable with, that are going to be real and vulnerable with you. So if you need somebody to talk to, need somebody to pray for you, like, definitely give us a call. And I would just say, like, I don't know if this is, just be careful about distractions, because, we live in a world that can be so distracting. And so for my kids, a lot of people say, well, how come your kids love to read? And I think, well, I didn't give them a lot of things that would to compete with that. Like, I really limited how much time they could have on games and stuff, TV, things like that. Like, I would just, I would limit those things if they're out of control. If you're fighting with them to do their work because they want to go, be gaming or doing something else, then take some of those distractions away. And if you may have to take them all the way for a little bit before you can bring them back and they can handle some time with it. But kids, there are so many good books, and there's so many resources like audiobooks, book lists. And I would recommend Sarah Mackenzie, the Read Aloud Revival, if you want to get like somebody that has really great book lists. She has a lot of things out there. You can Google Read Aloud Revival. But like Teresa said, like, that was just like a time, like, I would have a good book that I was reading, that I am reading, like with my youngest two are, one just turned 13 yesterday, and the youngest is 11. So, we have books that we're reading together, and that time, because, good books just take you to a different place. And so it's just so nice. You connect at different levels. So I would say reading together, that's like can be a magical time. And I know there's people that are like, it's so hard, they don't listen. I mean, that doesn't mean they're all just sitting there snuggled on the couch. They might be, or you might have the one that has to be playing with Legos at the same time, or coloring, or whatever. It doesn't have to look like everybody's sitting on the couch together. But those times are really wonderful. Or audiobooks, while your kids are playing. You'd be surprised how much, they can do without the other distractions when they're not there, fighting for their time, because they all those images, that's going to be more interesting than a book until they get into books. And so I would say give other things a chance. Playing. I used to want my kids, when I started, to be the smartest at the earliest age. And then I realized wow, they are only little for a little bit of time. Mine are all big. And so the time that they want to play, that's just, they need that time. And so this is an opportunity, like that they're not in school all those hours. Like just tell them, we're going to take this time in the morning. And when we finish this, you get to go outside, let outdoor play, just, they should, kids really should spend a couple hours outside a day. That's the healthiest thing for them. And so get outside, take a walk together. You see things when you walk, and then you come home and you can look up, what kind of flower was that? What kind of bird? Just take opportunities. That's just life, and that's learning, and it's fun. And they don't think it's school, but like they're learning something. So take those opportunities, the things that you talk about at the kitchen table, and just let life be about learning right now more than just, getting school done.
Right. Anything that we're doing like throughout the day, at all opportunities can be a lesson. That's another thing I learned as well. What does your typical day look like, Pam? Like, do you have a set schedule, or, your kids have to do this, this, this in order to play outside? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, when I had all 6 at home and they are all younger, I had to be, I tried to be more scheduled because there were so many, and just the craziness. So there were times where I was more scheduled. Now it looks more like lists, like checklists and really, like I said, my 16-year-old, he owns his school. My 20-year-old is doing school online, and he college online and worked. Well, he got laid off with this. He's at home, but, so I don't really homeschool them, even though my 16-year-old at home. And like right now before this, he wanted me to read a paper that he's going to turn in because he takes classes somewhere else too. And so I'm involved, but not so much, So with the younger two, they have their list that they check off, and a lot of it is just helping them develop habits in their life. Like I want them to read the Bible, and they're going to choose at a certain age if that's going to be a discipline that they have. But right now it's on their list. They wake up and they know they take the dog for a 20-minute ride. They go on their scooters with the dog. I know, like the neighborhood knows my kids by scooters and the dog. And so they do they get out with the dog. They read their Bibles. My husband works from home, so this everybody being home is kind of our normal crazy. Although it's been like all of us all the time, which is, I'm kind of getting tired of cooking, and I thought I cooked a lot, anyways, but not always for all 6 of us at this point. And so, my husband loves breakfast. So that's just been a thing in our house where we aren't like up. I have the kids that wake up early, and they know if they check off that math box, then it's done. Like, and that's something that they can usually get done by themselves, or they'll have a question about something and we'll talk about it later. But there's certain things that they can do and check off if they are the ones up. Or he loves to read and he'll just get stuck in a book, but the ones that are up are checking off things faster. But we usually have breakfast together, and we usually have a big breakfast. That's just kind of our thing. And then we go on, there's certain things that we do together, where it looks more like I'm teaching them. And, but it doesn't, we're not like strict scheduling at this point, but pretty much depends on how soon we got started. But, if we're not eating lunch till 1 or 2 sometimes, because we had a big breakfast, which was more like brunch to people, then they're done, they're playing, But sometimes, you're having a morning, and when they're younger too, you have to break it up. I mean, I had someone tell me, 20 minutes in one place is about all they can handle. And so if you're 20 minutes at the kitchen table and you're outside reading for 20 minutes, and you're on the trampoline sitting there reading, or you're doing your math while you're laying on the trampoline. I mean, let them move around, let them change things up. But that's a long answer for that.
Well, it's good. And one thing that I picked up on that is that it's not the whole 7 to 3 or 4, whatever, like the normal school system, because you don't have all the distractions. You know,
No.
they can't just be focused. What about you, Teresa? Oh, look it. Hi, Mama.
Hi. Oh, yes. So, yeah, I'm like Pam, where my older ones are at the age where they have their checklists. And I really love what Pam said about, having them own their work. And they are at their age where Matthew is, where I could say, okay, this is your list. You need to get this done. I'm not going to be hounding on you every single moment. But Maiden, he's more the forgetful one, who likes to go play a lot, and his attention span is not very long. So, I have to get on to him more. But yeah, we have a routine, and if we do get school done, if we have a productive day, then they're done around 2 or 3, and that's including a lot of break time and lunch. But there's many times where with Matthew, I'm not able to sit down and do math with him in the morning. So we'll be sitting down after all the siblings go to bed and do math. Or you're just going to have to do it on a Saturday, right? So that's the flexibility of homeschooling and that's where I'm at with my life with the 3 littles. And we have our routine and our schedule, but we have that flexibility as well.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Yeah. So for my boys, they're 10 and 14. And so we do have a list and having them own it. And they want to own it and they want to check it all off, because when they check it off, then they get to their game time and their play time and all that. And so kind of dangling that carrot for them in that way is really good. And so their time consists of, and for those of you that may be listening, maybe you're not a believer, in Christ, and we're not here to pass our beliefs on to you. It's just something that we share. It's just it's a commonality between us. But whatever it is that you want them to do, whatever it is your beliefs are, you really want that to be part of their day. And so for me, I tell my kids is, when you're starting your day with God and you're in His Word, He can open up your mind, and you've just got a better attitude and a better approach to things. And so they do that, where they've got their prayer time, they've got their 20 minutes in the Bible, and of course they've already gone and, they're boys and they're 10 and 14. So you got to tell them to shower. Like, hello, you need some clean chonies on. So on their list, it's like, brush your teeth, do your hair, wash your face. I got one going through puberty, put on your spot cream, and get on clean clothes. If you haven't showered, then, the night before, then you need to shower, put your hair, things like that. But once we get into that, they are getting that Bible time in. They're doing their school, and their curriculum is set. So for those of you that are homeschooling with kids at home, their curriculum is set. It's just about giving them that expectation that, hey, you should go ahead and get these things checked off. And then in addition to that, we've got a Bible study, where in the Bible app, there are Bible studies for all the different ages. So that's a really good thing for them to interact in a study that's already preset. So you don't have to be the biblical scholar. It's already preset. The curriculum's there. I'm a plug and play kind of girl. I need that kind of help in my life. And so that's a good thing. But then they've also got their imagination time, their creative time, their game playing time. And when I say games, I mean like board games, things like that, the things we used to do back in the day. When people hear games, they hear electronics. And so they have to do all of those things, including their workout. They've got an exercise a routine that they do. And they have to do all of those things before they can go ahead and earn the video game time or the TV time and things like that. So they're trying and working so hard to get all that knocked out, because they want the game time. So whatever it is that they really enjoy, kind of hold that as the carrot. I'll tell you something that I did just yesterday. We've got martial arts that are happening online. And there's a beginning class at 10, there's an intermediate class at 11, and it's all being done, online, virtual, through Zoom. And they kept forgetting about it or missing it. And so yesterday they missed it. It was, just after 10. I missed it, but they're 10 and 14. This is part of their schedule. They should do it. So I said, okay, boys, for every day you miss that beginning class at 10, you're now having to do the intermediate at 11. So yesterday was their first day where they did that. They will not miss their class. When I was getting started here, I could hear them upstairs on the ceiling pounding because they're working out. So you just got to know how to tweak it so that they're going to be more aware of what it is that they have to do and take a bigger ownership to knock it out, because they don't want this other thing. And if they don't accomplish these things, then they're not going to have their video game time. Let them play outside, do all those things for sure. So we do go by a routine in our house. And, when they need help, they reach out. And I love that, I have the privilege and honor to be able to do that with our kids. And so, what are some of the biggest blessings that have come with you being able to be home, educating kids? What are some of the blessings that you didn't even realize that you would get through this?
Pam, do you want to start?
Well, I think it's a relationship that you build with your kids, that and that they build with one another. I mean, that's, I think, the advantage right now. At least, I still have the two younger ones that are so close in age, and they, a lot of times when you have a bigger family, they just have somebody to play with, someone to do life with, and to watch those relationships grow and just see ways that they're gifted. I have my 20-year-old and my 16-year-old, musically, they're very gifted, I would say now, but you don't know that, and it wasn't because I was so good at getting them the classes. My 16-year-old, he, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
My things, I think they're dying, but he, he could play the piano by ear and stuff. And then my 20-year-old, he has a great voice. We knew that. But then all of a sudden, when he was just a couple years ago, he decided to teach himself guitar. And he'll spend hours, and he's amazing. And just seeing the relationship when they sing together, when they create things together, my younger two, yeah, I think it's just the opportunity, even in this time, we've had some things that my 20-year-old has been almost like a tenant in my house, because he's been working, and it's not like he really wants to be here at 20. He's trying to figure out what he's going to do with his life, what God's calling him to. But because he was a front desk supervisor at a Hilton resort and got laid off, and so he's at home and just he's having to just dig deeper with himself and his own motivation to get his online university degree done. And I think all of a sudden he's opened up to us about some things, and some things that were kind of crushing to me, because he opened up about some things that were happening in his life when he was a young teenager in our home. And you think because you homeschool that you know what's going on, and you don't even know what's going on with your kids sometimes and what they were struggling with. And so right now he's sharing some things really broke my heart. But the fact that he's sharing them because we are together right now, and maybe because what I'm reading, some things I have a different perspective, my husband does, and he felt safe to share some things with us, and even ask us for help in some areas of his life that he hasn't felt motivated in, for finishing his degree. I mean, that's the reward. It's kind of double-edged, because it's you realize the ways that you're I didn't want you to have to deal with that. Maybe that's why we were homeschooling. I was hoping we could avoid some of these things, but life happens. Kids, nothing is perfect. They're going to go through stuff, but the fact that you're going to go through it together and you can come out together doesn't mean it always looks pretty, but just focus. God's got a bigger vision, and he says that he will be faithful to complete what he begins in our hearts, and I just have to believe him for the bigger things. So I guess it's just my faith in God and trust in him, and two, just growing to know that we just have to pray for our kids, pray. And we need their hearts to respond to their loving Father.
Amen.
That's so good, Pam. Thank you for sharing that. I second Pam, the relationships, but also some of the rewards for homeschooling is just seeing my kids play together, seeing how much they love each other and care for one another, and also seeing where they started and where they end at the end of the school year, right? How much they've grown, how much they've learned, or when a light bulb goes off. It's just really rewarding to be able to be there to witness that, and just recognizing the talents and the gifts that God has given each of your child. And it's really neat to see. And I don't think that I would be able to see that if they were in school away from me, every single day, 5 days a week, all day. So I'm thankful for those.
I love that. Yeah. As you said that, I remembered, and we all go through things when we were in school, and you just brought back this memory of what I remembered. I always wanted to excel and be the best, but because I have ADD, because I don't sit still, and it takes me 2 to 3 times more of an effort to grasp something. And then I'm more of a hands-on learner. I'm like, don't talk to me because I'm not listening. There's other thoughts going in. I need to be hands-on. But I learned that later in life. But in school, I remember being at a parent-teacher conference in 5th grade, and my parents were already going through a divorce. At that time, it was not a good place. Life was upside down at home. And so your school for so many kids is like their safe place. And then I remember going to this parent-teacher conference and them telling my mom that, I really needed to work on my comprehension. And I didn't realize it. I just thought, because you don't know what you don't know. So you just know I knew I needed to do things multiple times over. But then to have it identified as a problem really killed me. And so one of the blessings that I had in this through homeschooling is being able to recognize my children's strengths and their weaknesses. But the weaknesses were not negative. And instead of, blowing up those weaknesses and, shoving that in their face, and when you do that, then there's like the failure and I'm not good enough, all of that. It brought back all those memories for myself. And so for me, it's really being able to see what they're strong at and then excelling in that. So for my little guy who's 10, he is so crazy smart. Like, he gets things like this. Like, he'll even get some things, before kids that are, years older than him. He's ahead of it already. He's to the next stage of it. And so for him, it's knowing that when we're doing things, I need to do things for him that are going to be growing his strength. We can look at a weakness, but if we just expand on their strengths, they're going to be untouchable. They're going to be amazing and just so smart and so strong. And so for him, I know that hands-on is good for him, because my younger one is got the ADD thing going on where he can only sit still for so long. It only keeps his attention. And so then it's knowing, okay, what are the things that are going to be appealing to him? And so it could be like science experiments, and well, what does that mean? And he'll ask me questions, and I'm like, well, why didn't you go research that and then come back and educate me? The truth is, sometimes I don't know either. So I can't tell him. I'm like, go research it for both of us. But it's, it's the blessing is that he didn't have to go through that negative talk that could have been given to him. And then also, like you said, Teresa is, and Pam as well. I mean, we've all got very tight families. And so we've just raised our daughters and our kids that this is your best friend. Your brother is your best friend. This is your confidant. This is who you get to be completely tight with, your blood. And you will always, people will come and go in your life, but your family will not. You may not agree, but at the end of the day, you're just going to, you're just going to settle things. And it's like, at the end of the day, we're family. And to see their relationships, I mean, they truly are best friends. My daughters are the best of friends. And I'm like, I like it and I don't like it because they know things that are going on in each other's life, but don't tell mom, don't tell dad. I'm like, just tell me. I want to know. I want to help. But that has been a blessing. It's been a blessing to be able to see them each excel in their own ways. And again, that was one of those lessons that I had to learn that you guys touched on is each child needs to be taught differently. And I remember my best friend growing up, her mom said, you can't talk to each child the same. And I just thought you could. Of course, I was in high school. I wasn't a mom. So it's just all these things that we learn along the way. But the blessings are so abundant. There's so many things that we have been blessed with individually in our families. In addition, I know that we all have home-based businesses. Successful home-based businesses, global home-based businesses. How do you incorporate that? Are you running your business hands-on every day, or do you have parts of the business, because we also run these businesses with our spouses? So are you a team and you just kind of know your role, and again, there's flexibility there? Or do you know that, we're in this tremendous stage of growth where we've got massive momentum happening in our business, so homeschool is maybe not going to be on 10, maybe it's going to be on 6 for this short season. How do you guys handle that in your homes, being successful not only as homeschooling moms but as entrepreneurs?
So, we started our home-based business 7.5 years ago. And at that time, we only had 2 boys, and the boys were 5 and 3. And I was all in on the business with my husband, and worked alongside with him, and worked the business. But, I think 2 years in was when God called me to homeschool. And at that time, we decided together that I need to put my focus on the kids and homeschool, and Tyson will take over the business. So from then on, I would take phone calls whenever it came. I would just step away from the school, and those phone calls maybe took 5-10 minutes. But I would step away, take the phone call, and get back to schooling. But as our family grew, with 3 more kids within 4 years, 5 years, 3 kids, my attention was really on the kids. And so now, I'm really playing the support role with my husband. I'm really, really, really called to focus on the kids and raise them and run the house and cook and keep the house clean and homeschool them. But my support in the business is through a lot of the group text and jumping on the calls after the kids go to bed or whatnot. But that's
through the season, it changes.
Right.
And it's okay. And as long as you have that agreement and that understanding in your home, it flows smoothly. What about you, Pam?
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely seasons. I was just trying to do the math. Like Teresa said, we've had this home-based business in the travel industry for 7 years. And so I had an 18-year-old daughter at home, and then the 5 boys. I guess the youngest was like 4. I'm like, wow, is that maybe younger? I don't know, but something like that. And so I did, at first, there were seasons of just being able to leave my younger ones with the older ones, and we had to do a lot of communicating about why we were doing this and what the purpose was for our family. You know, we took the first thing we did was took a really amazing trip together, you know, so they could just see the rewards. And so I think, you know, you can set up rewards for your kids. You know, mom's going to be gone with dad tonight, and but this night of the week, we're going to do something special together. I think the flexibility of homeschooling helped that, you know, because you know, you can plan those fun times when you want them to be. It doesn't always have to be on the weekend, you know, whatever works for your family, but plan rewards. And just your kids, you know, when you set up a lifestyle where they know how to kind of play by themselves sometimes, they know when it's your time that you're trying to get something done. I think that helps a lot. Obviously, I had older ones that could help me with the younger ones, so that was really helpful. And then, like, they've been different seasons. So right now I'm in a season where, you know, our business is really like what everybody's business is. It's over Zoom. It's long distance. And so that's been a blessing for these last, you know, couple of years that our international business has been growing, and my husband's been mostly the one doing that, you know, and in the Spanish speaking community, we've also been kind of branding, you know, he's been doing a lot of branding with Cesar and Pamela, and I speak Spanish. And so we've been doing a lot of videos and things together, you know, talking about things about the business, about life. And I think when you have a home-based business, it's not just the business side, it's life. And what I found is that the first thing that you have to focus on, no matter what you're doing, is your marriage. It's your relationship with God, and then it's your spouse. And so I just think that for me, Cesar has to be first. And there's a lot of times, you know, homeschooling and raising 6 kids and having a mother's heart, you know, when my kids were first and not my husband. And we suffered as a couple because of that. So I've had to learn, like, to ask my husband, like, what do you need?
Oh, we can't hear you.
Can't hear me.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think they died, but can you hear me now?
we heard you where you said you had to ask your husband.
What did I ask him? Oh, I know. I had to ask him, like, what does he need for me to do? What would help him? You know, we are called in the Bible a helpmeet. You know, like, what need can I meet? So asking him, how can I help? And sometimes it's something that surprises me. Maybe it's something to do with the books, banking aspects, or other logistical help that he needs. You know, it's not always, you know, that you have to be the person going to every meeting or being there. It connects us as a couple to be at the events together, the training events, and like Teresa said, you know, being on calls, working on it's a relationship business, so being involved in relationships in your team that you're building, that's a big part, no matter how much you're, you know, in the forefront of the business building activities. I think just being involved in the relationships. But I would just encourage wives that you really focus on your marriage. You know, there's so many things to focus on if you're homeschooling, if you're have a business. But if you can keep your communication with your spouse, you know, you can find out if the two of you can be one, you know, and what you're running together, even if you're doing different things, you know, you're communicating and you have the same focus and vision. So it looks different, my role, but we have the same vision.
Yeah, you touch on something so important, you know, where we've learned, keep the main thing the main thing. And in a marriage, you know, if your vision, if you two have the same vision, the end goal is the same, you're both working at that. And when you see yourself, things are not going 100%, you got to look at what you're doing that maybe you got off the line, because you can't change your spouse. You know, you can tell them, well, you're doing this wrong. It just doesn't help. And so all you can do is, you know, focus on doing your best in the role that you are called to be in. And and make it a priority. And again, just like the kids, taking that 10 minutes to educate them on, what it is they're struggling in. It could literally be that simple with your spouse. Hey, what can I do for you today? How can I bless you today? What can I take off your plate today? Things like that. I think that is so important. Our schedule fluctuates a lot. I am the primary person, and so that puts more weight on me in how I'm juggling things. And so that's where I always have to kind of bless and release and just be like, I've got to do my best today. And, like we've all said, just the same thing with the kids in the education is also in the business. This is what I need to accomplish today. This is what I need to get done today. And you don't go to sleep until it's done. And the beautiful thing about all of us being entrepreneurs is that in school, at least, the school I went to and a school that a lot of us went to, is that, you're taught, you get good grades and you graduate, and, you're supposed to go to college and get that degree and get that great corporate career, work up that corporate ladder. And if you're really successful, then you own a business. And 9 years ago, I found myself owning 3 businesses and still not where I wanted to be. And so now transitioning and doing a business that is a family business, it's been a beautiful thing, because now my kids get to see what it's like to be business owners, because they're involved. They get to participate. They get to be my IT as I'm getting set up this morning. They learn these things, and they need that, in their future. And so it's just a really, really, really cool thing. Going back to the homeschool, one note that I had on here, I don't remember when it was, but I had seen a dad do a video, and he was talking about he could not get his kids' attention. And he's trying to school his child at home, educate him at home. And he said, I just had to figure out what he loved the best. And at that time, this was a couple years ago, it was Minecraft still at that time. And so he literally took every lesson that he was teaching and he incorporated it with the Minecraft twist. So if you're struggling and you can't get your kids' attention, get into their world, know what it is that they love. We got another kid popping in. Hello, welcome to Mom Life. And, hey, baby cake. He's like, what's going on, Mom? What are you doing? It's getting into their world and learning, being able to teach them in a way that is going to get their attention and something that's going to interest them. And, we do the same thing in our business, things that interest them. We take lessons, we learn from that and teach them that. We teach them, like you said, Teresa, it's okay to fail. We're in a world where if you play sports and you're competing, everybody on the team gets a trophy. Everybody doesn't get a trophy in my house. And it's okay to fail. And all you got to do is reflect on what you did wrong and how can you do better. In fact, I was listening to an audio of Kobe Bryant, and he talked about how he would go and he wanted to be the best. And he had to reflect on what he was doing, and he would be shooting these shots, and they were right on, right in line, but they were just short. So he had to learn how he could get that extra distance so that he could get it in, so that he get the basket in the hoop, for those of you that don't know Kobe Bryant. And he learned he needed to work out his legs. There were skills that he had to learn. So it's very good for our kids to know, if they're not good at something, it doesn't mean that they're stupid. It doesn't mean they're dumb. It doesn't mean that they're a failure. It means that they just need to reflect on, what way could I make that better? How could I improve that? And when that's their perspective, we're giving them a healthier perspective. And that's for you parents, as you're doing this, you're not going to be perfect. Release that expectation that we put on ourselves. Release, comparison of yourself to anybody else. If you've got a curriculum that these schools are giving you, just do your best to get it done. At the end of the day, we need to make sure your family is intact, that you all still love each other, But let's not be certain. Not every day are you getting up and are you even showered. There's some days where it may be 2, 4, 5 o'clock and you're barely getting a shower in. You're barely brushing your teeth. My husband will go to give me a kiss and I'm like, no, not yet. I haven't brushed my teeth yet. I'm getting the kids fed and, everything's set. It's okay. Just figure out what is the most important. What is the most important? You want your kids to be loved. You want them to be happy. You want them to know that they are so smart, so mighty, so capable of accomplishing anything that they do put their mind to. And you're just there as the vehicle in place to help them and direct them in that path. So maybe they're not doing, history. What is it that they really need to excel? What is it that you need them to know at the end of the day? We need them to know how to spell. We need them to know how to read. They do need math. If they want to become like I don't even know what you call it, like a scientist, maybe they need all those mathematician, like Carter's doing something on his math. And I'm like, oh, I don't even remember that. I know I passed it. I passed it with flying colors, but oh God, don't ask me to teach you that. But focus on what is it that they really need for your family. What is it that you want them to know? Who do you want them to be? What are the lessons that you had to learn as an individual that, all of our parents, regardless of what they did, I believe they did their best. But we all grow up and we say, you know what? We want to be better for our children. Well, what are those things? And if you don't know them, there's tons of tools and resources that you have that are free. You can look at Facebook, you can go to books, you can go to podcasts, all of those things. And we all also just think, well, I am who I am and it's just who I am. It's just the way that I was raised. Just because I was the mom that didn't think that I didn't have patience to educate my child, that was just a tape playing in my head. I had to change the tape. So as we're helping to model our kids and help them to become better, it's also a moment, as you heard from both Pam and Teresa, it's a time for us to learn how we can grow and self-reflect on ourselves. I may not be doing my best, and it's okay. It's just always moving forward. And with that, ladies, any last words? I'm going through my notes here, things that I wanted to touch on. I think, final word for me is it's okay. We're going to get through this. And you don't need to own the day. You don't need to win the big list of things to do that day. Give yourself permission that you are going to do your best and you are going to have so much joy doing it. And just own it. Like Teresa said, if it's one thing for Matthew, one thing for Maiden, as long as they do that, the family's fed, they're not pulling each other's hair out, they're not beating each other up. It's a win. And so that's my biggest takeaway to you guys is that homeschool moms are not the saints that we think that they are. They're just real moms, because that's a weight. Let me tell you, that is a heavy weight that I'm like, oh no, I'm not that mom. It's a weight that it's a thought that we have, a seed that's been planted, but that seed it's not true, it's not factual. So whether you're gonna do homeschool curriculum, become a homeschool parent, or you're just in this season of having to manage your home while your kids are bringing their school and working on it from home, all of these lessons can apply to you. So that's my 2 cents. Ladies, last words, final words, how can we bless these families all around the world that are being thrown into this chaos of all these things happening around the world?
I have my last thought. I follow someone called Lara Casey, Cultivate What Matters, and talk a lot about little by little progress. And so I think springtime is a great time to think about growth and how it happens. And it's not overnight, it's little by little. And a lot of it happens in the dark. The seeds, you're planting seeds. And you have to water, the sun has to shine. There's a lot of things that happen. And when it starts growing, you don't see the growth. And so just know you might not see it. You might not see the fruit in these few months, but it might be something you're going to see years later, that's going to come out. And the same, I have 2 trees in my backyard, and one always, the leaves, buds and the leaves come out first. And then I know that the other one, it's going to happen. But like every year, I think I doubt. I'm like, oh my gosh, that tree died. Like, because the other one is so green and the leaves are all out already, and they look like they're the same kind of tree. And finally, like my kids were asking me, they're like, that one's late, right? But it's gonna bud, it's gonna get leaves. And I started thinking, oh, maybe it really died this year, but I'm telling them, no, right? It's gonna happen. Like, do you see the buds? And they're like, I don't see any. I was like, I don't either. But I noticed yesterday that there's some buds and some leaves are starting to open up. And I'm like, okay, there's life there. And so it might look, you're like, I don't see it. It's not coming. Just believe, just keep cultivating little by little progress. Just believe that you're going to see the fruit. So you can do it. Keep going. Take the next step.
Love it.
Do the next right thing, right? Yeah, thank you, Pam. That's really good. I think, what I want to say to everyone is have fun. Bring fun into it. And if you're stressed out in the moment, just stop and move on to something else that's light and fun. Because if you're stressed and your child's stressed, it's not going to be good for anyone. So give yourself a lot of grace. Give yourself a lot of grace and reach out. If you are struggling, if you need help, reach out to your friends, talk, so that you could have someone to listen to help you. But in the end, just give yourself a lot of grace, do your best, and really ask the Lord and the Holy Spirit to give you strength, because I do that every single day, sometimes every moment. So have fun and give yourself a lot of grace, and really love on your child. Love them. Just love them.
Yeah, and even if it's moments of time where you're loving on them, you know what I mean? Just give them that moment of time where you're completely present with them. And if you're not feeling like you're that happy mom, or you're stressed, and again, financially, you don't know where the money is going to come in. You don't know how you're going to put food on the table. There's only so much that you can control. There's so many things that are out of our control. So just focus on the things that you can control and excel in those items. And if you're in a funk and you're, just in this place where you're just waking up and you're waking up on the wrong side of the bed and you're trying to get through the motions, but you're just cranky and not happy. And any house that has a cranky mom, that mom, that house is not flowing well. It is all about mom. So ladies, if that is you, here's the thing. We're quarantined. We're all here in our homes. I have found that there are some times where I just need to get my butt into a shower. Even though I'm not going anywhere, I need a shower. I need to blow dry my hair, curl my hair, do my makeup, and get dressed, not just be in gym clothes or pajamas, and just get dolled up to stay home. Nobody's going to see you, but get dolled up, because it's just going to make you happier. Instead of walking by that mirror and not even wanting to look because you look like you just woke up and it's 4:00 in the afternoon, you can look and actually be happy. Like, okay, you know what? There's a little bit of light on this face instead of the dull skin in the morning, There are these small things that you can do to just get yourself into a healthier state. If it's being in the Word, if it's listening to audios and positive, encouraging things, there's a lot of tools out there that you as moms, I listen to something like that every single day. I'm listening to a sermon every single day, and I've got worship music going on. And my kids, now they're popping around and they're coming in singing the songs, and they know the words more than I do. And so music is a big thing in our life and in our world. And so, get the thing you need to get done accomplished, but enjoy the rest of the day. Have fun in the ways that you have fun. Your kids are going to love you. They're going to see mom happy, which makes them happy. Let them participate in the things that you've got on your plate. Help them be a part of that. We're a team, and they love that. They do enjoy it until you start to ask them to do it every day. Then it becomes like a chore, and then they're like, really, mom, do I need to? But have fun with it. Change it up. Do whatever you need to do. Just figure out what's best for your family. Figure out what's best for you, because you're the one running the household, whether it's a mom or a dad. You're the one running the household. And love your babies. Be patient. Give grace. Ask for grace. And yes, pray a lot. Lord Jesus, be with me. And I always say I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And that just re-ups me. So ladies, thank you so much for jumping on. This ran long. I know we were talking about maybe doing it short. We might go a little longer, went even a little longer, but I pray that this was valuable to so many. So I appreciate you guys taking your time out of your day with your families to jump on and, help give some light and hope and bless more families and parents in this world.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Selena, for having us. Thanks for putting this on. I really hope it does bless others. Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure. All right, ladies. Bye. Have a great day.
Bye. God bless.
God bless.